To truly understand Plateosaurus, we need to travel 214 to 204 million years back in time to the Late Triassic period. During this era, our planet looked completely different. All modern continents were merged into a single colossal supercontinent, Pangea, stretching from pole to pole. This giant landmass was surrounded by the waters of a single global ocean, Panthalassa. Pangea's climate was harsh. Vast inland territories suffered from extreme heat and droughts, while climatic zones were characterized by sharp transitions from prolonged dry spells to powerful, devastating monsoons. It was in these brutal conditions, among endless plains covered with seed ferns, conifers, and cycads, that evolution created the first true giants of our planet, and the most successful of them was Plateosaurus. The history of this amazing creature's discovery is no less fascinating than its biology. Plateosaurus is one of those rare cases in science where a dinosaur was found and described before humanity even invented the word dinosaur. The timeline of this discovery takes us back to 1834. A German physician and passionate amateur paleontologist, Johann Friedrich Engelhardt, was conducting excavations near Nuremberg in Bavaria. Among the red sandstones, which were nothing more than the petrified mud of ancient Triassic riverbeds, he stumbled upon several massive vertebrae and limb bones. These fossils were so large and unusual that they did not belong to any reptile known at the time. Engelhardt handed his findings over to the prominent German paleontologist Hermann von Meyer. In 1837, von Meyer carefully studied the bones and realized he was looking at an entirely new, undiscovered species of extinct reptile. He named it Plateosaurus engelhardti, honoring the discoverer's surname. The generic name translates from ancient Greek as broad lizard or flat lizard, likely due to the massive and sturdy structure of the discovered bones. For comparison, the famous British scientist Sir Richard Owen proposed the term Dinosauria, or terrible lizards, only in 1842, 5 years after the official scientific description of Plateosaurus. Over the following decades, discoveries poured in one after another. The territories of modern-day southern Germany, the Swabian region, and northern Switzerland proved to be particularly rich in fossils. There were so many bones and they were so large that in the 19th century, locals seriously believed they were the remains of mythical creatures, dubbing the findings Swabian Lindworms, German folklore dragons. A true breakthrough in the study of Plateosaurus occurred in the first half of the 20th century when legendary paleontological sites were discovered, quarries in the town of Trossingen, Germany, and the municipality of Frick, Switzerland. In these locations, scientists found not just isolated bones, but massive bone beds containing tens and even hundreds of nearly perfectly preserved, articulated Plateosaurus skeletons. Thanks to these unprecedented discoveries, Plateosaurus became one of the most thoroughly documented dinosaurs in the history of paleontology, providing scientists with a unique window into late Triassic life. When we look at a reconstructed Plateosaurus skeleton, the first thing that catches the eye is the striking contrast between its massive barrel-shaped torso and its disproportionately small head. The skull of Plateosaurus was narrow, elongated, and relatively deep. It had a delicate, almost bird-like construction with large fenestrae, natural openings in the bones, that significantly reduced its weight without sacrificing any strength. This lightness was a crucial evolutionary adaptation, as the head sat at the very end of a long neck, acting as a kind of lever. A heavy skull would have simply tipped the animal forward. The neck of Plateosaurus was a true biomechanical marvel, consisting of 10 elongated cervical vertebrae. It was extremely flexible and muscular, forming a characteristic S-shaped curve during movement, somewhat similar to the necks of modern swans or ostriches. Thanks to this structure, the animal gained an incredible advantage while foraging. Standing firmly on its powerful hind legs, Plateosaurus could stretch its neck high up, reaching the canopies of conifers and seed ferns at a height of 3 to 4 meters. Smaller herbivorous competitors could not reach that high. At the same time, this incredible flexibility allowed it to easily lower its head to the ground to drink water or graze on low-growing ferns. Looking into the jaws of Plateosaurus, we see a highly specialized tool for harvesting plant material. Its jaws were equipped with dozens of small leaf-shaped teeth with coarsely serrated edges. They were perfectly suited for biting off and shearing the tough, fibrous vegetation of the Late Triassic. However, the structure of the jaw joint had one major limitation. It only allowed the jaws to move up and down, operating like garden shears. Plateosaurus was physically unable to move its lower jaw from side to side, meaning it was completely incapable of chewing its food. Every torn leaf or twig was swallowed whole. The sensory organs of Plateosaurus were perfectly tuned for survival in a world where the first fast theropods, carnivorous dinosaurs, had already appeared. The eyeballs were positioned on the sides of the narrow skull, providing the animal with an extremely wide field of vision, a classic evolutionary adaptation of prey animals that allowed them to constantly scan the horizon and spot approaching danger in time. Paleontologists have also found fossilized sclerotic rings, bony plates that supported the shape of the eye. An analysis of the proportions of these rings suggests that Plateosaurus had very sharp vision and led primarily a diurnal or cathemeral, active in short intervals during the day and night, lifestyle. Modern computed tomography of the inner skull cavity, endocasts, shows that the brain of Plateosaurus was relatively small compared to its overall body mass. Its intellect was not particularly high, but it was entirely sufficient for coordinating its enormous body. The olfactory lobes were especially well developed. Large nostrils were located almost at the very tip of the snout, allowing the dinosaur to locate flawlessly the most nutritious plants and vital water sources from kilometers away, even during brutal Triassic droughts. For over a century after its discovery, Plateosaurus was the victim of one of the greatest paleontological misunderstandings. In older books, museums, and classic illustrations from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it was invariably depicted as a clumsy, heavy animal crawling on all fours and dragging a long tail behind it. Scientists of that time simply could not believe that a creature weighing several tons could move exclusively on its hind limbs. However, modern technologies, including digital 3D modeling and biomechanical analysis, have forever erased this outdated image. Today, science provides a definitive answer. Plateosaurus was an obligate biped. It walked and ran exclusively on 2 legs. The key to unlocking this biomechanical mystery lies in the structure of its forelimbs. They were significantly shorter than the hind limbs, but the main problem lay in the anatomy of the forearm and hand itself. Studies of the radius and ulna bones of Plateosaurus have shown that it was physically incapable of pronation, meaning it could not rotate its front paws palms down toward the ground. If Plateosaurus had tried to drop down on all fours, it would have had to rest on the outer edges of its hands, leaning sideways on its fingers. For an animal whose mass could reach 4 tons, such a posture would have resulted in instant fractures and dislocations under the crushing weight of its own body. Computer modeling of its center of mass settled the debate once and for all. By creating a virtual model of Plateosaurus that accounted for the volume of its muscles and internal organs, scientists discovered that its center of gravity was located very far back, directly over the pelvis and hind legs. The massive, incredibly muscular tail played the role of a critically important counterbalance. It balanced the long neck, head, and massive digestive tract located in the front part of the torso. Plateosaurus functioned like a perfectly tuned seesaw, pivoting on its sturdy hips. The hind limbs of this dinosaur were true biomechanical masterpieces, designed to withstand colossal loads. They had a columnar shape with massive femur bones to which powerful muscles were attached. Plateosaurus was a digigrade animal, meaning it did not rest on its entire foot, but only on sturdy toes equipped with blunt claws. This anatomy significantly lengthened its stride and acted as a natural shock absorber, allowing this enormous creature not only to walk for long periods in search of food, but also, when necessary, to break into a fast run to escape predators. Since the front paws were completely freed from the function of walking, evolution turned them into highly specialized tools. Each hand had 5 fingers, but the most prominent feature was the giant, sharply curved claw on the first finger, the equivalent of our thumb. This sickle was covered with a tough keratinous sheath and could reach impressive sizes. Its functions were diverse, from a deadly melee weapon against early carnivorous theropods to a hook that the dinosaur used to pull down the tastiest branches of tall trees or tear open the sturdy nests of Triassic insects in search of protein-rich food. To imagine the menu of Plateosaurus is to imagine the harsh flora of the Late Triassic. It was a world that did not yet have the soft grass, broad-leaved trees, or flowering plants we are used to today. Instead, the landscape was covered with tough seed ferns, primitive ginkgo trees, cycads, and early conifers. The leaves and needles of these plants were highly fibrous, poor in nutrients, and very difficult to digest. To maintain the vital functions of a massive body weighing several tons, Plateosaurus had to consume a colossal amount of this low-calorie greenery every day. It was a true eating machine that spent almost all its time stripping branches. Thanks to its bipedal stance and long, flexible neck, it had exclusive access to the upper canopy of vegetation at heights of up to 4 meters, which was completely out of reach for the stocky, quadrupedal herbivores of the time. However, a serious biomechanical problem arose. Plateosaurus did not know how to chew. Its leaf-shaped teeth with finely serrated edges worked like efficient rakes or garden shears. They perfectly clipped needles and shoots, but the jaw joint allowed the mouth to move only up and down. The animal was physically incapable of grinding food with lateral jaw movements. All the plucked plant material was sent down the esophagus whole in rough, unchewed chunks. If a modern mammal tried to feed this way, it would end fatally. But evolution gifted sauropodomorphs with an ingenious solution. The real magic of digestion happened inside the massive, barrel-shaped torso of Plateosaurus, which made up a significant portion of its mass. Its gastrointestinal tract was a giant biological fermentation vat. To mechanically break down the tough food inside its body, Plateosaurus deliberately swallowed stones. These stones, known in paleontology as gastroliths, stomach stones, accumulated in a special muscular section of the stomach, much like they do in modern birds. As the powerful stomach walls contracted, the stones rubbed against each other, working like tireless millstones. They literally ground the rough branches and leaves into a fine plant paste. After that, the pulverized mass was sent to the long intestine where, with the help of symbiotic bacteria, it slowly fermented, releasing the calories necessary for life. During excavations, paleontologists often find these perfectly smooth, highly polished gastroliths right inside the fossilized rib cages of Plateosauruses. Interestingly, there is still debate among scientists regarding the absolute vegetarianism of this dinosaur. Some researchers point out that its closest ancestors were carnivores. There is a hypothesis that Plateosaurus might have been an opportunistic omnivore. That is, although flora formed the basis of its diet, it could have used the giant claw on its front paw to tear open the nests of Triassic insects, catch small reptiles, or even scavenge carrion to get a quick boost of protein and calcium to support the rapid growth of its massive body. When we think about the growth of modern mammals or birds, we know that each species has a genetically predetermined standard. An adult lion or elephant always grows to roughly the same predictable size, after which its growth completely stops. For a long time, paleontologists believed that this rule applied to all dinosaurs as well. But when researchers began to study the life cycle of Plateosaurus in detail, they encountered an absolutely unprecedented phenomenon that came to be known as developmental plasticity. Plateosaurus had no standard adult size. To unravel this mystery, scientists turned to paleohistology, the study of the microstructure of fossilized bones. If you take a thin cross-section of a Plateosaurus femur and look at it under a microscope, you can see concentric rings that strikingly resemble the annual rings on a tree stump. In science, these are called lines of arrested growth, or LAGs. Each such ring represents 1 year of the animal's life, and the distance between them shows how fast the dinosaur grew during that period. After analyzing dozens of Plateosaurus bones from mass graves, paleontologists were shocked by the results. It turned out that the growth trajectory of each individual was deeply personal and directly depended on environmental conditions, the amount of available food, climate humidity, and stress levels. Some Plateosaurus individuals reached sexual maturity, stopped growing entirely, and became fully adult at a modest length of 4.8 meters and a weight of about 600 kilograms. Others, having access to a better food supply, continued to grow relentlessly, turning into true Leviathans, up to 10 meters long and weighing over 4 tons. The difference in weight between two fully grown adults of the exact same species could vary by more than 6 times. Their growth rate was also completely unpredictable. One Plateosaurus could reach its maximum size in just 12 years of intense feeding. Another might grow slowly but steadily, continuing to increase in size even at the age of 20 or 30. The average lifespan of these giants, judging by the bone rings, could exceed 3 to 4 decades. Why did evolution create such a strange and unstable growth system? The answer lies in the ruthless world of the Late Triassic. Pangea's climate was volatile. Decades of relative abundance could suddenly give way to prolonged, brutal megadroughts. During years of famine, a smaller body size was a lifesaver. A dwarf Plateosaurus needed significantly less food and water to survive, and it could reproduce faster. But during periods of climatic prosperity, the ability to grow into a 4-ton giant provided an absolute advantage. Such a colossus became literally invulnerable to any predator of that era. This unique plasticity was a perfect survival strategy that allowed Plateosaurus to dominate Europe for millions of years. The Late Triassic of Europe was a time of grand evolutionary experiments. Plateosaurus did not live in a vacuum. It was the central figure of a complex, dynamic ecosystem filled with bizarre creatures, many of which left no direct descendants in the modern world. Since Plateosaurus had an undisputed monopoly on eating leaves from the treetops, it experienced practically no food competition from other herbivores. Scurrying under its feet were smaller neighbors that fed on ferns at ground level. Among them were aedosaurs, armored reptiles resembling modern armadillos but related to crocodiles, and the world's first turtles, such as Progynocalus, which already had a sturdy shell but hadn't yet learned to retract their heads into it. It would seem that with so much food and such gigantic size, Plateosaurus could feel completely safe. But the Triassic world was ruthless. The main threat to our hero came from early theropods, bipedal carnivorous dinosaurs, ancestors of the future Tyrannosaurus. In the territory of modern-day Germany, the apex predator of that era was Liliensternus. It was a fast, 5-meter-long hunter weighing about 130 kilograms, with an elegant skull adorned with a double bony crest on top. Its mouth was lined with sharp, backward-curved teeth, perfect for gripping prey. Could a Liliensternus kill a Plateosaurus? The answer depends entirely on which individual it encountered. An adult Plateosaurus, which thanks to developmental plasticity had managed to grow to 10 meters and pack on 3 to 4 tons of weight, was essentially an invulnerable tank. For comparison, Liliensternus was the size of a large modern tiger, while an adult Plateosaurus resembled an African elephant. Moreover, the herbivorous giant had deadly weapons in its arsenal. Its long, incredibly muscular tail could deliver a blow powerful enough to easily shatter a predator's ribs or legs. And if it came to close-quarters combat, Plateosaurus deployed its massive front limbs with giant sickle-shaped thumb claws. One precise strike with such a claw could disembowel an attacker or break its neck. Therefore, predators largely avoided encounters with fully grown adults. Their primary targets were juveniles. A pack of Liliensternus could spend hours stalking young, not yet fully matured Plateosaurus, trying to cut them off from safe areas. Old or sick animals, weakened by prolonged Triassic droughts, also fell victim. During these harsh periods, when water sources dried up, predators didn't even have to hunt actively. They simply followed the exhausted giants and waited for them to collapse from dehydration, after which the bloody feast began.
Taphonomy is the branch of paleontology that studies how fossils are formed, meaning everything that happens to an animal's body from the moment of death to its transformation into stone millions of years later. And in the case of Plateosaurus, taphonomic research has uncovered one of the darkest dramas of the late Triassic. As previously mentioned, paleontologists discovered entire graveyards of Plateosaurs in the quarries of Trossingen and Frick, Switzerland. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of skeletons lay in a single location. Initially, scientists hypothesized a sudden catastrophe. It was believed that a large herd of Plateosaurs was migrating across a desert and got buried by a giant sandstorm, or that the animals drowned en masse during a sudden catastrophic flood. However, a meticulous analysis of the rock formations and the positioning of the bones completely dismantled the instant death theory. It turned out that these dinosaurs did not die together, but individually over hundreds, perhaps even thousands of years in the exact same spot. But what compelled them to come there to die? The answer lay in the Earth itself. These were deadly mud traps. The European landscape of the time was dotted with lowlands and shallow lakes. During prolonged Triassic droughts, these water bodies dried up, turning into deceptively solid plains. But when the season of heavy monsoon rains arrived, the water seeped into the soil, turning the bottoms of the former lakes into deep, viscous mires. The surface might look completely safe, covered with a thin layer of water that lured thirsty animals. When a multi-ton adult Plateosaurus approached the water, its heavy hind legs, resting only on its toes, acted like tent pegs. They easily punched through the top crust and sank deep into the thick mud. The animal was trapped. If Plateosaurus had been a quadruped, it might have tried to distribute its weight and crawl out on its belly, pushing off with all its limbs. But its front legs were too short and couldn't reach the ground. Every movement of its powerful hind legs only pulled it deeper into the mire. Ultimately, the giant died of dehydration, exhaustion, or heat stroke, never managing to free itself. This mud trap theory is brilliantly supported by several taphonomic facts. First, there are practically no bones of young Plateosaurs or other small dinosaurs in these mass graves. Lighter animals simply did not sink. They easily ran across the surface of the mud, which only became lethal for the heavyweights.
As the Triassic epoch was coming to an end, the world stood on the brink of massive changes. Pangea began to split apart, the climate became more humid, and the flora grew richer. Plateosaurus eventually went extinct, failing to adapt to the new conditions or giving way to more advanced species during the Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction about 201 million years ago. However, its evolutionary mission was accomplished. Plateosaurus became nature's dress rehearsal before the creation of the largest land creatures in the entire history of our planet. Previously, Plateosaurus and its relatives were called prosauropods, meaning ancestors of sauropods. Today, paleontologists use a more accurate term, basal sauropodomorphs. Although Plateosaurus itself was most likely a side branch and not the direct grandfather of Diplodocus or Brachiosaurus, It belonged to the same group of pioneers that laid down the fundamental anatomical blueprint for all future titans. It was on Plateosaurus that evolution tested the key technologies of gigantism. A long neck and a small head, this allowed the animal to gather food from a vast area without wasting energy on moving its massive body. Later, Jurassic sauropods would take this idea to the absolute extreme, growing necks over 10–15 meters long. A gigantic fermentation vat. Evolution realized that digesting tons of low-calorie vegetation required a massive gastrointestinal tract functioning on the principle of fermentation with the help of gastroliths. A lightweight skeleton, the fenestrae, windows in the skull, and special cavities in the vertebrae, bone pumitization, which first appeared in early sauropodomorphs, prevented future giants from being crushed by their own weight. But the most important lesson Plateosaurus left to its descendants concerned biomechanics. Plateosaurus reached the absolute physical limit for a bipedal herbivorous animal. To continue growing, eating even more, and becoming unreachable to the new, even larger predators of the Jurassic period, such as Allosaurus, sauropodomorphs needed to build up even more mass. The digestive tract became increasingly heavier, and the center of gravity inevitably shifted forward. Ultimately, evolution forced the descendants of these bipedal runners to drop down on all four limbs, turning their front legs into massive support columns. Thus, true sauropods were born. The summary of our journey. Plateosaurus was not the smartest dinosaur. It lacked the armor of an ankylosaurus or the terrifying jaws of a tyrannosaurus. Its life was a harsh test of endurance. It spent its days consuming tough conifer needles, swallowing stones to survive, and often met its end in treacherous mud traps. But it was the first true giant. It proved that gigantism is an incredibly successful survival strategy. Millions of its bones, carefully preserved in the red sandstones of Europe, have allowed us to peer into that distant era when the world was just learning to be truly massive.